Hi, good morning.
How are you, Janae?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Okay, I'm ready to go whenever you're ready to go, Meg. Hi, Denise. Nice to meet you. I'm Shay.
Hi, Shay. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Tell me what
Good
part of
is
the country
good.
you're in again.
Say it again.
What'd you say?
What was your question?
What part of the country are you in?
Oh, Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Yes. Where are you, Shay?
I'm in Arizona.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah. My grandmother was from Cincinnati, and she ended up in Arizona, and that's kind of how
Oh,
we part of
nice. So
the family ended up.
you know a little bit about Ohio.
I do. I want to get to Cincinnati and spend some time there so I can see some of the stuff that where she lived and stuff like that.
Oh, beautiful. Just don't come in the winter.
Yeah, exactly. I'll make that a fall or summer trip, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm going to talk about agent accountability today. I love to make sessions targeted to the people who are here. So, do you have team members, Juanice, or tell me about how you're structured?
I have two team members. And should they be on the call? Or your main? Okay, good.
So this is about basically putting a system in place to manage accountability with your agents.
Okay.
Do you give them leads?
I don't have a lead source yet in terms of that I'm using like Zillow or anything, but I have given them referrals.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So this will just give you kind of an idea. This is the structure of the database that my team uses. And we're 15 agents doing around 400 transactions a year, the team that I oversee. And so I'll keep it more of like how we structure the database just to make sure that everybody's following up with their leads and getting to them in the right time frames. If that's helpful to you. Or
it will be. And Janae is on with us too. She's our team admin.
Okay.
And so
and do you have a Lana Keys revamp build, or what are you using in Follow Boss? Or are you using Follow Boss, first of all? Is that your CRM?
Yes and yes. And we're new to both. So although we have Follow Up Boss, we're new to using it, and we did go ahead and get Elena services.
Awesome. Well, that's a really great start. That's how our team started in Follow Up Boss, is basically with her build. And then I've elaborated beyond that because we do purchase leads. We have like a big lead gen program within our team. And so as our team grew and our agents grew, we really needed a way to keep everybody accountable to the leads that we were giving them and make sure that they were converting them at a high level.
Yeah.
We got away from doing anything that was like Zillow or like what I call platform leads. And we went to more of like pay-per-click leads. And so that would be like, forcing traffic to your website that's just searching for general things in your area, like general real estate searches in your area. So
like Google pay-per-click.
Yeah, exactly. Google pay-per-click. Yep. So that way we're competing against Realtor.com and Zillow, but we're actually spending a fraction of the cost on the leads. It's just that like Zillow gives you handed off leads. Like Zillow generates leads just like what you could generate on your own website. But then they have like an ISA department, and they call and nurture the leads and work with them until they're ready to buy. And then they say, hey, Juanice, will you take out these buyers that, they want to see at home at 2 p.m. on Saturday? Essentially, what I did is just turn my agents into those people, calling and following up and working with those leads until they were ready to go see a home. We also have ISAs that help us to generate leads as well. So ISAs just call our leads all day. So I'll just show you a quick overview of the system, and then I want to tailor things to what you need and what would be helpful to you. So just let me know what questions pop up for you.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. So this is, we went for our team a couple of years ago with this basic structure. And Essentially, it's just like, this is our database management and lead policy. So we have, the whole premise here is like how we distribute our leads. And for you, you're not like, it sounds like you're just doing a lot of like referral type stuff, like stuff that comes in that you don't want to work yourself. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
No, but I do want to get to, the next level in terms of being able to have leads to give.
Okay. So
to
what we do is we generate leads from different sources and we put them all in what we call a pond. That starts to work really well once you have, I would guess, probably more than 5 agents. Right now, when you're at like the 2 agent level, you don't really need the pond too much. I would maybe have an archive pond, and the archive pond would be like the people that you hand off to them, that they work and they call and they try to get to convert, but they never go anywhere. And the way that like the earliest version of the lead gen system that we put in place was, as soon as my agents just determined that someone wasn't going to move forward and buy a house anytime soon, and basically they became a dead lead, they would switch them to a stage called archive, and that would put them in an archive pond. That archive pond just existed for us to keep track, right? Like, we just wanted to know how many leads did we generate and how many did we convert to an actual opportunity. And so that archive pond helped us keep track of that, but then make sure that they didn't like just like we wanted a place to put them so that they weren't just hanging around being owned by that agent that you sent them to, but then they didn't turn into anything. The goal of this program is to keep agents really efficient, only focused on what business is possible to close in the next, a lot of teams will just focus on, I only want you to keep leads that are going to do something in the next 90 days. I'm not that strict. I have a very heavily retiree marketplace where people will start looking a year ahead of time and really consistently look and for a year before they retire and things like that. So I like our agents to nurture leads, but I only allow them to have 100 leads at a time that we give them as a team to nurture. So, and that's even probably too many, to be honest with you.
Now, your PPC is pulling in that many leads to be able to hand off to your team like that?
My rule of thumb is I like to give agents 30 opportunities a month. And now we have we started out with having just referral leads. Like the first few agents we had on our team, they were just getting kind of like the spinoff of what our main like team owner couldn't take himself. Mostly buyers, because he really committed to listings himself. So we had what we called 2 or 3 buyers agents initially. And the buyers agents took a lot of the buyers that he couldn't take because he focused on listings himself. So that was kind of the first iteration of all of this. And we didn't buy any leads. Then we slowly started buying leads. And then we figured out we had to have more of an organized system like this so that we could keep track of what we were giving to agents and how efficient they were at taking care of those prospects for us. That makes sense?
It does. Yeah.
So basically, if you go to this diagram, and let me make it a little bit bigger on my screen. Okay. So basically, the unclaimed leads pond is where the leads go into. Again, I don't think that you need to get fancy with a pond for unclaimed leads yet, because that's more of like when you have a bigger team and you're trying to figure out how to distribute leads. When you just have a few agents, usually it makes sense to just hand them out to agents, but then have some sort of a system where they're putting them into the right stages and lists to follow up with them. So our agents on our team have the opportunity to dial the unclaimed leads pond. So I'll give you just a quick example of how that would work. If you decided to if you got a few more agents and you decided to start generating leads at a higher level through pay-per-click or whatever, even Zillow, whatever it is, you can have those leads go to this unclaimed leads pond. And then if you're an agent on your team, you show up 8 o'clock in the morning on your laptop or at your office or however you guys structure things. And you start calling through that pond to try to find new leads. So what happens is it gets a lot of repetitions onto those leads because lots of agents are trying to call them, and they only claim the lead and take it over to work if they connect with them on the phone. If they don't connect, or they start texting or emailing back and forth with that person. But if they don't connect with them, then they just leave them in the pond for other people to keep trying and calling. So it becomes a very efficient system for communicating with those leads. Go ahead on your question.
Is it so with this? Is it first come, first serve with the?
It's all just like, it's kind of like a Shark Tank, they call it. So it's just like whoever gets there and starts calling, they can set up to get notifications on their phone every time a new lead goes into the pond. And the ones who are real hungry will do that. And then they'll just click on that text notification on their phone and go right in and claim the lead. If they do that, then they're committing to call that person 3 times a day for the first 2 days. 2 text messages and 1 email a day for the first 2 days. So they can do it a couple different ways. A lot of people will just let a lead go into the pond and then they just do a dialing session the next business day to get those people, hopefully get those people on the phone. They also will call through that pond to very old leads because sometimes like somebody hasn't ever picked up the phone or responded to anything, but we can see because of the way that we have our website integrated into everything, that they're searching, that they're like looking at leads and opening or looking at listings, opening our emails every day. And they're like, okay, well, this person's active. They just won't pick up the phone or respond to my messages. So that's how those dialing sessions help them, because then eventually somebody's been in our pond for, let's say, 6 months. They started their search super early. They didn't want to talk to anybody. But then after 6 months, they'll pick up the phone and start talking with an agent. And if you're the person dialing that day and you happen to call that person who's ready to talk, then you get them on the phone. So, yeah. And then we do the ISA system, and you can get ISA handoffs on our team. And then we do something called opportunity time. So we carry a lot of listings, and so we get sign calls and things like that. And that was something that our team owner took away. He after a certain point that his business grew, he didn't take any sign calls anymore. He wanted the team to take those. And so opportunity time has turned into where the sign calls come in, and we do that through Follow Up Boss or an inbox. We put a Follow Up Boss number on our listing signs, and that Follow Up Boss number can ring to anybody we want to on the team. So it helps someone like you, who's like the producer for the team, not continue to get distracted by those calls, unless you're still at a place where that's where a lot of your business is coming from, in which case you don't need a system for that. But as you grow, that's a way for you to feed those leads to your team.
Got it.
And then we have a smart list system that I put in place. And again, it has a lot to do, like it's very similar to the Elena key revamp stages. We've just added in a few different things that kind of make sense for our marketplace and for the types of leads that we're generating. We have that one list that I was talking about where when you first claim a lead, like if you were to, let's say that somebody sent you a lead that wasn't like a really warm handoff. Let's just say that somebody's like, hey, Lenise, I have some people who might be looking in the area, but, and I think that like they're kind of ready, but like they just probably need to have some follow-up and some nurturing. And you hand that off to one of your agents. Your agent then would have that lead on their 3-2-1 list, meaning that they would make 3 calls, 2 texts, and an email each day, trying to get that person on the phone. Now, that might be too aggressive for some of the handoffs that you have, but that's really good when you get to the stage where you're buying leads and you're doing like online leads, because it can just be like a lot of follow-up that it takes to get somebody on the phone. So 3-2-1 list might not be a super good setup for you until you get out of the phase where you're, just handing off, because usually the handoffs, like you leave them a nice voicemail, maybe you try again the next day. It's not so much like that aggressive schedule, but the aggressive schedule works. So my agents are always like, oh, this seems like a lot. And I was like, but remember when they get an online lead, they've inquired with us. They gave us their information, and we are at the end of the day a customer focused business, and we owe it to them to give them an answer to their question. So until they pick up the phone and tell us what their question is, or text us back or email us back and say, oh, I was just looking, wanted to see what my neighbor's house was listed for, whatever it is, our job is not done. So that is your way to like follow up with them a lot until you find out what their question was. And then once they get, that's the first 2 days that we put them in the 3-2-1 list. On day 3, they move to the new leads call list, the way that we have everything set up. And the new leads call list is list number 2. And that would just be like, that would be an example of the people who you hand off to your agent, that kind of casual referral that's not sure if they're ready to start looking yet. That would be a good example for those people. So you want them to pop up for that agent on that list every single day until they pick up the phone, right? Because you want your agent trying to get a hold of them on whatever schedule you're comfortable with, like daily, ideally, where they're like, hey, this is so-and-so on Juanice's team. I'm just calling to touch base with you about your real estate search. No pressure. I know you guys are just getting things started, but I'd love to get you set up on a search to just start understanding what's available in your price range. Have you connected with a lender yet to see what you can afford? You know, just having some of those really initial conversations. As soon as you get someone on the phone when they're in list number 2, then you stage them. The agent would stage them. So the agent puts them in like an A, B, or C stage, meaning hot, warm, or cold. And let's say that they have a conversation with that lead and they're like, yeah, you know, we did talk to a lender 6 months ago, but we're not quite sure like what area we want to be in. And at that time we could qualify for up to 400,000, but like, okay, well, great. Have you talked to a lender anytime recently? Because interest rates have changed. Maybe they're a little bit different than they were last 6 months. And so as you're having all those conversations, then your agents can ask them, what's your time frame? Do you have an idea of when you'd want to be in your new home? Well, yeah, probably by the end of this next year. Okay, well, those people, they're going to be what I would consider a cold lead. But right when my agents work with them, they might put them in a little bit. They might have that time just because we want to make sure that we're getting them good information. Like we're making sure that we get them set up on a search, that maybe they have an updated conversation with the lender so they know what they can afford, even if the lender doesn't pull credit. So that would go into the probably the stage of warm on my team, which would be the B stage. So they would stage the lead, and just by staging the lead, they're going to now automatically pop up in their B warm list. And the warm list is a bi-weekly contact. So every other week until they move to a different stage or go into a pending stage, like they're getting ready to, you know, they wrote a contract that's accepted, they're going to pop up on this agent's list in the B list. So then that agent will remember if the client hasn't called them or they haven't called the client every 2 weeks, that agent will be reminded to call them because they'll show up on that list. As soon as they call that client, they'll drop off the list for 2 more weeks. So it's a great way to just keep that ongoing nurturing going on with calls, texts, emails, and follow-up boss. And then do you have your website? Do you have like a website where people can search for homes? Have you guys gotten that far yet?
Yes and no. So I have, I signed up with Agent Fire, and that's they're in the process of doing that. They said they wouldn't be done with that until mid-February. And so I do have a website from my brokerage through kvcore/Bold Trail.
Okay. Yeah. So you've got something where people could be set up in searches.
Yeah. And so we also purchased Real Scout. So we're very new to Real Scout and setting people up for searches there. So
nice. So that takes me to the next list, which is recently active. And so that same person, let's say they're staged as a warm, but they click on the Real Scout link to view listings, or they go into your KV Core or your Agent Fire site to view a new property that's sent to them because they have a search that's set up there. What I want to do is bring that to the attention of the agents, especially if they're managing 100 leads. I need a way to show them like, hey, this person's actively searching, give them, or they want to know what the value of their home is or whatever the action is. And so this list is set up to show them that someone's been recently active on the website. So once your tech tools are integrated with Follow Up Boss, anytime they view a property on Agent Fire or Real Scout, you can create a like notification that comes into Follow Up Boss, and then we can add it to the recently active list. And that allows your agents to go, oh, cool. Well, Susie and Bob were searching for homes in the, whatever, so-and-so neighborhood. I'm going to give them a call and touch base. Like, is that a neighborhood that they're liking? Because we could target their search down a little bit to maybe just that neighborhood and another one similar to it.
Yeah.
So that even if somebody's like in one of the cold stages, meaning that they're not going to buy for 6 months plus, it still brings them into this recently active list and shows the agent like, hey, even though this is a cold lead, they've been searching a bunch on the website. So it's a really nice tool to give the agent the ability to reach out to people and keep connected after they have activity or taken action on your tech tools.
So question, and primarily because we're still so very new at this, the recently added
Active,
the recently active, is that an alert that we'll get, or are we setting something up in order to get that as an alert?
Each of the tools have like slightly different parameters there. Like when you do your onboarding with Agent Fire, right now, if you go into your KV Core site, you can probably set up those notifications to come to your agents via like text or email, or to you or to someone. What we did early on was exactly that. So my agents would get an email that said, so-and-so viewed 1, 2, 3, 4 sample drive today. But as we got bigger and started generating a lot of leads, you can imagine how much email and text traffic that created. Yeah. And so we got rid of all those notifications, and then we just went to this recently active list. And I'll give you an example in a minute of what that looks like on my agent side. But basically, I just show them in Follow Up Boss, here's all the people that have been looking. So then they can just click on the lead, see what they've been searching on or see what they've been doing, and give them a call. We never say like, hey, we saw that you saw 1, 2, 3, 4 sample drive. What did you think of it? We just say like, hey, have you seen anything that's caught your eye? Or like, as we're going through the search process, I know you have a home to sell. Are you familiar with the value that you could get for your home? Is that something that we should explore? Because we know that they're like poking around online looking for that valuation. So it's basically about creating the technology tool like Agent Fire, getting that to start notifying you when there's activity or notifying the agent. And then eventually when that gets to be like, oh, this is a lot, then, or maybe even at the beginning, depending on how you set things up, you can put those notifications in Follow Up Boss. They're already coming into Follow Up Boss once you get all integrated. So you can put all those notifications into a smart list, which then gives the agent the ability to go there and check all those instead of having to weed through their inbox. Because what I found is that people, like we used to task our agents with that, like, hey, so-and-so's been searching. But then I'd look in their accounts and they had like 100 tasks that weren't done because they'd get busy with showings for a week and get behind. And then it seemed like this extremely daunting like task to go through all that stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'll keep going, but you keep just asking questions because I want to make sure this is super relevant to you. And I know you're just getting things set up.
Yeah.
So then we also have a stage, which is called our list 9, which would be all of the past clients on our team that have already closed. So, and then we also put our COI or sphere in this stage. So we have a stage for past client, and then we have a stage for sphere. And then we put those people on a smart list to be called every 4 months. And that's like a warm check-in, like, hey, how are you enjoying your house? Blah, blah, blah. But it's also for those people who are in our sphere that like we could call and say, check in with them. Hey, how's your business? to maybe the dry cleaner or the hairdresser or whoever it is, and like ask them if they know or of anyone who's looking to buy or sell real estate. So that's a great place to keep those people tracked so that we make sure we're reaching out to them. We used to do it once a quarter, but as our team has grown, it's gotten hard to keep up with that once a quarter. So now we do it every 4 months. So, and then, so the whole goal here is to just like, eventually we take leads away from our agents if they haven't talked to them and put them in a stage. And we do that on the 22nd day. So we give them a lead for 3 weeks. We give them a chance to work it. If they can't figure out how to get that person on the phone, then we take it away and put it back in our unclaimed leads pond. And that allows someone else to pick up that lead and start working it. Once the leads are staged, then we work hard to keep those people communicated with. Our agents then have a list for each of these 4 through 8, and they are working to keep those lists at 0 every day or week, depending on how the list is set up. And that means that if the leads are staged properly and they're getting their list to 0, they're following up with all the people that they need to in their database. And then we have contact standards and things like that we hold the agents to. Some like recommendations on your success habits, like what schedule time to do follow-up every single day. Don't let that slip off your calendar, because that usually means that then you won't get appointments for, a few weeks out once you don't get that opportunity, that time to call in. Make sure to stage them and get them set up on a search if you do talk to a lead. So we really utilize those tools like Agent Fire and Real Scout. We don't have those 2 tools, but we use similar tools to make sure that we're staying in front of people. Even if they tell us, oh, no, we're 2 years out. Well, whatever they originally inquired on or like came in on, or just a guess as what they would be interested in, is the search that we set up for them. So for instance, if we don't know that much about someone and what their search is, we would just send them a blanket search of all the homes that are on the market in our area from like 4 to 700,000. Sometimes they'll email back and say, oh, well, if we were ready to buy, we would be at 800,000 because that's what we're selling our house for in California or whatever it is. Oh, okay, great. And then we just adjust the search. So if anything, we get them to respond, right? Like we get them to come back to us. And then you notice that as the technology tool keeps emailing them listings, you start to see a pattern. Like, oh, they really like open floor plans. Oh, they really like this. Oh, they really like that. And then the listings mailing out to them on a regular basis that meet their search criteria, even if it's broad, that becomes a nurture for them, right? Like even if your agent fails and never calls them, at least they're getting those listing alerts every single time something comes new on the market, and they have your branding on it, your contact information or the agents. And that's a subtle way to keep branding to them, if that makes sense. So then agents are like, we ask them to make a certain number of contacts every week. This describes our ponds and stuff. This is kind of an overview of our stages. So they come in as a lead. They get put in attempted contact if they've been tried, but nothing's happened yet. Contacted would mean that they spoke to them, but they were like, oh yeah, well, I'd love to talk to you, Bernice, but I'm walking into a dentist appointment. I'll have to have you call me back later. And then when we call them back later, ideally, we're trying to figure this out. Are they real hot? Like they want to see a house this weekend and move forward? Are they, going to buy in 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, or 6+ months? That's what my agents are constantly trying to figure out, is what's their time frame, so I can put them in the right stage so that I can be reminded to follow up with them on a regular basis. Archive would just mean that they don't do anything. Like you call them and call them and call them, and they tell you, oh no, my sister's a realtor, I'm going to work with her. That would be the archive stage. And then we had to find a place to put those people because I didn't want them hanging around in my agent's database. So I put them in the archive pond. That way, and I leave searches turned on and everything for them. And you'd be shocked when so many people come back around. It's like their sister moved away to a different city and now they don't have a realtor, or whoever they're working with doesn't do a good job or whatever. And then trash is kind of like what we would put like a do not call, like a nasty person that we end up working with, or like just whatever it is, somebody that we just need to get out of our system, we put them in trash. But we don't do that often just because I like to keep records on people like that. Like I don't want to accidentally call them. So I want to get them out of our system. But I also want to know who they are in case they come back around.
Okay.
So we have a bunch of client stages that we use because we also manage transactions inside of Follow Up Boss. And then we have a couple of other stages like realtors, because like obviously, as you start adopting a CRM like this, you get a lot of like communication going with realtors who ask you questions on your listings and things like that. So it's really nice to have all those people in there. Recruiting, we do some of our recruiting activities in Follow Up Boss. We just actually started a second CRM for that because it's just too hard to keep track of it in there. And then our agents really heavily use the appointment section of Follow Up Boss. And we ask them to do that because that gives us really great data on what leads work and turn into an appointment. To me, that's a big success metric. So we tell our agents, your work isn't done for the day until you set an appointment. That should be your goal. And if you set an appointment a day, you're talking to enough people. And so then that's going to result in the number of closings that, we would like them to get to on a regular basis.
So for your team, the goal is 1 to 2 appointments a day?
Yeah, like really it's one. I mean, one appointment a day times 5 days a week times, let's just say 48 weeks by the time that you take a vacation a couple times and you take some days off and whatever. 48 weeks is kind of what we go by is what people work.
Yeah.
That's a lot of appointments. I don't have a calculator in front of me right now, but roughly like 250 appointments or something like that.
Sure.
And then obviously an appointment for us, we have a pretty loose definition of that, because if you can get somebody tied down to a time that they'll talk to you on the phone, on Zoom, or meet in person, I'm okay with any of those because they all potentially are getting you closer to a deal, right?
Yeah.
So
So
we allow them to have any of those as an appointment. And then and the other key piece to qualify as an appointment is you have to set it with the person. Like if you just have in your mind you want to call them back on Tuesday in the afternoon because they're coming to like view homes on Thursday, unless you say to them, I'm going to call you at 3:00 on Tuesday. Does that time work for you? It's not an appointment. So that's how we kind of define it.
An appointment.
Yeah. Like they have to have buy-in.
Yep.
Otherwise it's just a follow-up. And then, so here's kind of how the lists lay out in Follow Up Boss, how they work. I think that you could simplify this to some degree. And again, this would be really just tweaking Elena's system, focusing on using Elena's revamp as the first step. But then when you start generating leads at a higher level, thinking about doing something like this would be the way I would manage it, just because even just getting agents used to putting leads in a stage and like coming in and working their smart lists every week is important. So our agents would see something like this across their dashboard. The red would just be like normal smart lists that they would see, but this is just a demonstration. So they would have all these lists across the top so that they know right where to go when they get in. And then when it's in Follow Up Boss, they would see how many people they had on each of these lists. So you could see like, oh, I have 20 people on my hot list I have to call today. We use a weekly productivity tracker document that like just helps agents keep track of how many calls, texts, emails that they've sent. Follow Up Boss obviously tracks that for them, but some people like to have something on their desk as like a little bit better motivation. We use a couple scripts that just help them remember to have all those different pieces of the conversation, like what's your motivation, what's your timing, what areas do you like, those types of things. And then this is a description of all the different lead buckets, if you will, or smart lists. And I'll show you in Follow Up Boss what this looks like.
I will say, Shay, that this information is a little bit over my head as we're still getting cozy to old Fubby Wubby.
I get it.
We're definitely not at this place yet, but it's interesting to see how
where you could think about going at some point.
Yeah,
for sure. No, that makes complete sense. And I think the key piece, like I was saying, is to just dig into Elena's system at this stage.
Yeah.
And really figure out and you can use yourself as the first trainee, right? You are a great person to learn this system. So somebody gives you how do you get a lot of your leads? Is it how do you personally generate your leads?
Well, I guess the thing is I don't. And so my business has been referral based.
But still, that's a lead. It's somebody you haven't talked to before for the most part, usually, right? The person who gets referred.
Yeah. And then I'll, every now and again, I'll get someone from social. They may see, that we posted a closing or something like that. But definitely word of mouth referral is the bigger thing. Random phone calls sometimes where they landed on our website somehow. But
so we get a lot of those too. We actually have a 50% of our business is all referral, past clients, organic lead generation, if you will. Yeah. And so this is an example of someone that this agent on our team generated. And she's calling it COI, which is the same sphere, is the same thing. So that's the lead source. So she put them in Follow Up Boss. She's got all their information in here. And then she put in that they're cold. They're not going to move forward right away. And then she's got them with the source and assigned to her. And then she put them on a search. So now whenever they search for properties, she can see right here what they're looking at. So
question to you real quick, a couple of things. I see her tags are zip codes. I'm presuming
yeah, that's all automatically generated by the website that we the website provider that we use. We use YLogo, and that's going to be your version of Agent Fire. So, so the process would be that Angela had this conversation with Amanda, we're looking to buy a house, but it's going to be the end of this year. Okay, great. Well, let me set you up on a search so that you can understand what the market looks like in the areas that you're interested. So then in
our case, it would be through Real Scout, where we
Real Scout or Agent Fire, just depending on how you want to use those two pieces of technology.
Okay.
I think both of them have the ability to set up a search for a client.
Okay.
So and then whenever that person looks around, once you have it all set up, you can see the homes that they've actually viewed. And so that's kind of cool. This is her sending a big email newsletter to that person just as a batch email. That's something you can do. All of your leads, you can send out one email that you get from the title company of things to do on the weekend. So she's sending that. We send them our market statistics. So this is just all the nurture activities. This is one of our website providers that gives us info hey, Amanda has looked at this one house 3 times. So this is an example of one of those notifications that we were talking about that your website can give you. And then she's sending her some other emails. So basically, this is an example more of the type of lead that you would have and how our agent is using Follow Up Boss to keep track of that person. And then because she's put them in this cold list, that means that if she hasn't talked to them for a month, they're going to pop up on that list, on her C list, as someone who needs to be reached out to. So if we go to Angela's C list, She has 4 people to call today that she hasn't had any communication with for 1 month. So these are all people that are waiting to buy till the end of the year, probably is my guess. And so she's going to be reminded to call them every month, unless, like, for whatever reason, she's talked to them in between. Does that make sense?
Not necessarily.
Well, that's where you're headed. The first step is to just figure out how to get Follow Up Boss organized. And then this is like, obviously, if you start buying leads and, you know, growing your team, that's where you would take it.
Yeah.
Any other questions that I could answer for you today to help you where you are today?
Yes and no, kind of, Shay. The no aspect is we really just need to get acclimated to follow up boss, and we're just not there yet. And so we've dumped in you know, contacts into FUB. Some are, you know, good, some are not. So we're kind of going through a cleaning process right now.
Yep.
We do have we did have Elena's team, you know, set up our action lists, and we're getting comfortable with that as well. Simultaneously, we're working with Real Scout. So I think we just have to focus on getting cleaned up.
Yeah,
at this point.
That's a huge first step, getting cleaned up, and then also getting your clients in the right places and Follow Up Boss, right?
Yeah.
Like, who's a hot lead, who's a warm lead, who's a past client. That's absolutely step number 1.
And that's where we all are now. Janae's been making quite been making progress in doing that with my list. And the girls on the team, they've been assigned for today to spend 3 hours today just cleaning up their contacts as well and getting everyone in the proper stages and tags. So that's kind of, you know, where our head is right now. Of course, there's some other questions that I could ask, but I think it's a little beyond where we are right now.
Yeah. Well, please feel free to, you know, just let us know how we can help in the meantime. There's a lot of really great people who have been exactly where you are in this group from, you know, and not that long ago either. I know it might seem like we're doing advanced things, but just please reach out as you come up with needs. But getting organized first is such a great strategy. That's perfect.
Yeah. But that's where we are. So
cool.
What today's session provided for me is just a window into the future.
Yeah, a bigger picture, exactly, of like where you could get to down the road. Totally. And you don't have to have a team to, like, a big team to put some of this stuff in place. It would help you get your business organized in just a new way that, you know, not that you need necessarily to do that, but it would give you more leverage to have those systems in place.
Yeah. So definitely appreciate the information, although I didn't necessarily understand all of it.
But you can always come back to this recording later on when you're ready and be like, okay, now I have more context for this.
Yeah, definitely. So
all right, cool.
Thank you very much.
For sure. Thank you. Hope you got some value today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on future sessions. And please don't ever hesitate to ask any questions if you have them.
Okay. I do have